The New Design by Anthony Blake, an imagined chapter describing what might happen next in the design of spaceships. This fictional edition features an appearance from Zainab, daughter of Taales. The what is called day after their conversations with the ship's captain and the ensuing exchange of views between them, and when they had refreshed themselves in the ship's Jami Chunatra, with food for their inner bodies, which was especially important for the formation of objective reason in Hussein, and would enable him to better assimilate the data his grandfather was giving him in his explanations, almost unparalleled in the whole megalocosmos. Such data as well might otherwise rapidly decay into what might be called occasions for silly dreams. They resumed their usual seating, with Ahun standing somewhat stiffly behind Hussein with an earnest but ambiguous expression on his face. It was evident that Hussein himself was in an agitated state, and he could barely wait until Beelzebub had become comfortable and his towel properly arranged about his person to speak about the thoughts that were still in orbit around his subjective system, bursting to come out into the awesome silence that emanated from the presence of his grandfather.
Dear grandfather, during my early morning contemplation of the associations proceeding in me, there appeared again the conversation we had had with our most worthy captain of our vessel Karnak, proceeding then through my being self-confrontation to arouse in me a burning question. And I wish, if it is corresponding and you agree, to put this question to you. Forgive my impulsiveness, but I must confess to having an urgent need to see beyond what has already come to pass, and not be silent, since I may have inadvertently misunderstood the significance of the step of innovation that led to our present ease of travel through the megalocosmos. Remorse arose in me when I realized how much I had taken for granted all the devices and conveniences which now exist, and to have never before questioned how such wonderful things came to be. But now I see looming before me a new and incredible thought. By all sane logic, following the explanations we heard from the captain, the system of Archangel Haraton may not be the end of innovation, and that three-brained beings also will inevitably continue to discover new possibilities, and in all probability we can look forward to the design of a new form of transport even more extraordinary than our wonderful Karnak.
Beelzebub laughed and then, smiling at his grandson, said,
"Ah, the impetuousness of youth. When the separate impulses of the being centers can far exceed the harmonious blending of objective reason. But such impetuosity playing an essential role in the processes of world creation, though not according to law, leading to mistakes that only his endlessness can forgive, as I can attest. Listen to me carefully as I try to answer your question, whose sincerity is evidence of you coming to have your own essential I that is not an imitation of what you have heard or read. What you suggest is more than possible. Not only in the fullness of time is some unspecified time and place, but in a way that is being uncovered even now from a science well known in the universe, but reserved for those three-brained beings who have proved capable of approaching near to his endlessness. We heard from the peerless captain of our ship Karnak about Saint Venoma, who came to dwell on the planet Purgatory because of his objective merits, and devoted himself to investigations of the possibilities of cosmic laws, and who utilized the law of falling to perfect a new kind of transportation of beings. I will tell you much more of this special place in due course, a planet like no other, near to the Holy Sun Absolute. This holy planet Purgatory, wherein there dwell those advanced being bodies that are seeking perfection, to be able to exist with his endlessness on the Sun Absolute. In my exchanges with your uncle Tuilan, who had become worthy to dwell on that sacred planet, it has been confirmed that, like Venoma, some of the higher beings there who await the completion of their everything to become all enough devote themselves to active being mentation on both fundamental and secondary laws, since these laws must be adjusted to enable the harmonious development of the megalocosmos to be aided by three-brained beings. Not only that, but it turns out, just on that special planet, there are in use devices of an exceptional construction called ego-leonoptes, or omnipresent platforms, that enable the beings there to move wherever they wish through the atmosphere of their planet. During some conversations with your uncle Tuilan, I came to learn that they were the invention of the angel, now archangel, Herkissian, and were constructed on the basis of his researches into the properties of the fundamental laws as they were in the early stages of the creation, when they were not yet consolidated into the forms they now have for world maintenance. Your uncle Tuilan has been deemed worthy to pursue the researches of Herkissian into investigations of movement and the further possibilities of translation of bodies in space that were involved in the construction of purgatory itself. In the words of our highly esteemed Mullah Nasruddin, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Beelzebub paused and seemed to be looking far off, as if into the infinite space of the prime substance Etherochrono. Hussein sat silently, poised expectantly, and waited for a few moments, but then, being overcome by the revelations he was hearing, was forced to erupt again into speech.
Dear grandfather, does this mean that there are beings there who, even now as we sit here in our spaceship conversing together, are creating from what is called their thought a new device that will make obsolete the kind of vessel we travel in now? I am confused, since it seems from what you've just told me that they have already discovered the principles, the modifications and combinations of fundamental laws which would enable a totally new design, but as yet they still have to labor to find ways of bringing their design of translation between worlds into existence, so that three-brained beings everywhere might make use of it?
Said Beelzebub.
It will be only later that you will be able to truly understand the answer to your dilemma, because at this time I can give you only an impression of what is being done on the holy planet by the extraordinary three-brained beings there. Suffice it to say that as things are in general in the universe, the ego-leonoptes can operate only within the special conditions obtaining on the surface of purgatory, owing to its proximity to the ultimate source of all.
How then, dear grandfather, can the design being brought forth on purgatory come to be in other places where conditions are less favorable, such as, in particular, the strange planet Earth you've begun to tell me of, containing my favorite three-brained beings?
Beelzebub sighed.
It will gladden my essence if I could tell you exactly what is being done, but this concerns understanding or real knowledge which I cannot just give to you, however much I would wish that I could. You have yet to understand the difference between the knowledge we can have of the fundamental laws and the understanding by which we can create new things in the universe. It is not enough to know and to wish, but we need also to be, and capable of building these cosmic devices in ourselves, because they are of the same nature as the inner bodies which can bring us objective reason. As one of your great messengers sent to Earth once said, "Seek knowledge even as far as China." But your favorites have lost the other part of the saying, which is, "Then make it real in the workshops of Bukhara." For the moment, dear grandson, bring yourself to contemplate the possibilities inherent in your essence, which will contain the rudiments of a design that will help you to move into a significant future.
At that moment, the apparatus called Ephemeropticon, normally silent through their long journeys, and previously unnoticed by Hussein, issued a sound called Zoom Anthem that was constructed from the chiming of bells on the planet Celestia Carmen, announcing a rare communication directly from the planet Purgatory, using a method of trans-system communication that only beings of that planet could employ. Beelzebub smiled, as if he had been anticipating such a communication occurring while they were talking, and then directed his gaze to a region of the Ephemeroptic device, where there appeared the presence of a young being female, evidently of Beelzebub's extended family, who stood in a posture of devout attention and eager anticipation, her hands clasped together in the gesture known as "Praise be to his endlessness" and "Reverence to our ancestors." Behind her could be seen, standing in an array of colours, though of muted hue, a figure who made a gesture directed at Beelzebub, but encompassed the young figure standing before him, as if to convey at one and the same time a meaning something like the presentation of a novitiate, deemed worthy of admission to the presence of a higher being, and also a certain anxiety over what she might manifest without the guidance of himself, her father. He faded from sight, leaving the young being standing wide-eyed, but in an alert state that manifested both wonder and mischief. Hussein, startled by this unusual manifestation, for which he had no corresponding previous data to assist his understanding, was then astonished to hear the apparition speak.
Reverend Grandfather, I thank you for giving permission to my father to arrange this communication over such a vast region of the megalocosmos so that I am able to see you during your return to your home system, and also meet with, through this advanced apparatus that few possess, my cousin Hussein.
Turning towards Hussein, she said,
I give you greetings from Purgatory. I know that you will, with our grandfather, be visiting this planet on your journey home, so we may then exchange opinions and experiencings to mutual benefit. My father Tuilin has told me of the extraordinary journey you are making, during which you are having the unparalleled opportunity of sitting at the feet of our wise grandfather, who is already widely renowned for his investigations into the unusual and barely law-conformable conditions obtaining on the planet Earth.
My dear cousin, your presence here, albeit in a form hardly known in three-brained experience, but directly, even so, from Purgatory itself, is an unexpected and welcome addition to the instruction I am receiving on this journey home on Karnak. But there is no doubt that this event is not accidental, since it comes at a time when I'm learning of the researches on that planet, the results of which may change the future of intersystem travel and communication in the whole of the megalocosmos. I can only suppose that the workings of this device, the Ephemeropticon, is itself a manifestation of the enlightened workshops which maybe you have seen with your own eyes during your stay.
My dear grandson, this being appearing here, though older than you, but still quite young, has the name Zainab, given to her by her father, your uncle Tuilan. When we began our conversation with the captain of our ship Karnak concerning the invention and development of devices for intersystem travel and communication, it came to me while we were talking that in the way called omnipresence of the corresponding, the elevated beings of the planet Purgatory would come to know of our interesting discourse, and might not then refrain from materializing their appearance to us, so that they might share something of their researches. Zainab is serving as such a materialization, since the rare beings of the Holy Planet cannot bear too long an exposure to the coarser vibrations of our world. She has become acquainted with your circumstances, including your special interest in the strange three-brain beings of the planet Earth in the system Ors, through her father sharing with her many of the etherograms I have been sending to him about my discoveries while exiled here, which she has been absorbing with rapt attention. I will leave her to acquaint you with the fundamental consequences of the sacred law Trimasa Kamno in words that may properly suit the readiness of your reason, since she is of an age much closer to you than I.
Dear grandfather, I am eager to fulfill the task you have laid upon me. But hope my impetuosity will not obscure the essential truths that have to be conveyed to my cousin Hussein. If you will allow it, I hope to adopt an appropriate mode of speech that may express what is important in a correct way. Though I am able to appear here for only a limited time, and my knowledge and understanding of what is being created here, based on the researches of the Archangel Herkisian, is also quite small, I will do my best to bring out something of what I might call the essence feeling of the situation. And when I meet with Hussein in a more sustained and substantial way, though many diagnostics yet, we may be able to more fully share our thoughts and experiences to our mutual benefit.
Zainab paused and then, gathering herself together, drew herself up and crossed her hands over her breast. Taking a deep breath, she recited in a resounding voice.
The first thing to understand, and the most essential, is that on Purgatory there is no pushing or pulling in the movements they have, but a motion that comes entirely from the sacred Okidanok, that cosmic active element itself, and in particular from the third part of this cosmic actualization of the law of three, which is known as the holy reconciling. When this holy force does not take its rightful part in the moving of anything, there is only the inharmonious combination of the other two principles, active and passive, which engenders what your favorites call electricity and manifests mechanically on planets in what they call thunder and lightning. Incidentally, amongst your favorites, as my father told me, quoting from etherograms he had received from our grandfather, the appearance of thunder and lightning is sometimes called the wrath of God, which happens to be a true representation. Since we can understand the action of Okidanok to mean the power or will of his endlessness, and when it is lacking in the third sacred force or part, it can be truly understood, using the words of your favorites, as God without mercy. It is just this third part of Okidanok, usually neglected in the formation of what we consider artificial devices such as spaceships or means of conveyance and communication, which is the essential ingredient in the realization of those extraordinary constructions which enable the higher beings of the planet Purgatory to move from place to place without effort or the expenditure of the other two forces.
Grandfather, Zainab,
Hussein interrupted.
how would it be possible for beings like myself, an ordinary three-brained being, to obtain the third sacred element of the cosmic substance, Okidanok, without involvement of the other two? Is this not impossible, and only the higher being bodies dwelling on the holy planet Purgatory can realize such an actualization of the law of three? Because of their nearness to the Holy Sun Absolute?
As I explained, it is as yet not possible for me to tell you how this will be accomplished, because as yet you do not have the ableness to comprehend what is involved. And this ableness will depend on your full understanding of sacred cosmic laws, an understanding I hope you will crystallize in your essence by the end of our conversations, which are only just beginning. Also, as yet, the investigations and cogitations of the higher beings on the planet Purgatory, including your uncle Tuilan, who have retained their passion for discovery, have not yet completed their manipulations and verifications to allow for ordinary beings of the megalocosmos to utilize the third cosmic force for their moving. For the moment, it will be enough for you to ponder on the availability of the mercy of God, to use the language of your favorites, and how you yourself might realize this ableness to transport yourself. Later, I will expressly talk to you about one of the principles necessary in this case, which entails that you participate in what is called non-desires. Such a participation can bring a three-brain being into a state corresponding to that of the third element of Okidanok, as it moves everywhere in all places in the megalocosmos, so that in just this element one can say that there is all the movement of all the universe already taking place. But the movement that a three-brain being can obtain from realization of and participation in the cosmic totality of all moving cannot stem from any egoistic or reactionary impulse in him, such impulses only serving to expend the Okidanok available to him to little result, or even direct him along destructive paths. By the way, my boy, participation in the cosmic moving of everything is mostly to be achieved in that one of the centers of three-brain beings, which is of the nature of movement.
Dear grandfather, to my regret, I have to inform you that this special interrupted communication cannot now be maintained for more than a few moments, and the link will soon be broken. My essence thanks to you, a being of supreme objective reason, but also blessings to my dear cousin, whom our grandfather has found worthy of his exclusive attention during the long journey home. I have been deemed worthy of helping you by speaking of the divine researches here on Purgatory, which few have been privy to, entirely because of the special circumstances attending the operation of the device which enabled me to speak, when otherwise I would certainly have been rendered speechless by these unparalleled events.
My dear cousin, your words have set fire to my reason with their prospects of unparalleled realities, I hope one day to be able to be like you and travel to the Holy Planet, talk with the scientist beings there, and see with my own eyes the results of their experiments, which might change the character of the whole of the megalocosmos. It would fill my essence with delight if I would find you there, still in residence with your father. And if such fortunate circumstance should come to pass, I should plead with you to consider enlarging in more detail on your explanations of how the cosmic laws are being better understood, and even, dare I say, act as my guide to their implementation into the new designs of intersystem travel and communication. I may be rash in speaking in such a presumptuous way, but our exceptional educations parallel each other and must serve some common purpose beyond the imitations of the systems from which we came.
As Hussein said the last words, Zainab gestured with her lips in a token of affection and faded from sight, leaving only a pale wisp of purple that dispersed into the surrounding air. Beelzebub spoke.
Enough for now. I hope you will ponder deeply on what has been said, and one day perhaps you yourself may communicate with the higher beings of the planet Purgatory to bring into the lives of all three brain beings such a wonderful device utilizing the essential nature of the merciful force of Okidanok. It is enough for you to look towards the future in the confidence for the coming welfare of all beings who will accept with joy all the necessary suffering and labor it will entail, this being the price which must be paid to take upon themselves the results of the inharmonious clashing of the other two forces. It is by way of accepting this price that they will become blessed with a new form of transport that can rightly be called in terms meaningful even to the beings who have taken your fancy, the deliverance of the Holy Ghost.